Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. Today is August the 18th. This is Leading with a Purpose, the podcast, episode 5, titled Strategic Team Building, Putting the Right People in the Right Places. It is presented by Christopher Pusey, CEO and owner of Integra Lead Solutions. For those of you who don't know, we are a small, people-first focused business consulting firm located in Taylor, Michigan. We service all of Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana. Looking to expand one day soon. So, welcome back to another episode of Leading with a Purpose. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. This is a podcast about leadership, people, organizational growth, and creating organizations that can sustain success in ways that are different than our current failing methods. To recap over the past few episodes, we have been introducing the philosophy behind our business and breaking down our core services one at a time. We started with leadership development. We talked about why leadership development isn't simply teaching someone the rules and regulations of the organization, that it's about developing people. Then we talked about management solutions, which is our version of operational risk management. We discussed why systems should support people rather than control people. And today we are going to talk about the people operating within those systems. We're talking about strategic team building, or our version of project management. I want to start off by clearing up one small misconception. When you hear the term team building, what comes to mind? If you're live in the chat, I want you to take a moment and think about that. What does the term team building mean to you? Drop your thoughts into the chat. If you're following up later with the recording and you want to participate, you can comment your thoughts on the recorded video at a later time. 80% of people think of something like an escape room, a company picnic, a bowling night, trust falls, a team lunch, when you hit your productivity numbers and they buy you pizza instead of giving you a raise. Most people think about these ideas and they love them. Those are great ideas. And that is okay, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with those team building activities. But those activities are not strategic building. Those are more considered to be team bonding, not building. Yes, there is a difference. Strategic team building is about intentionally creating teams that are capable of achieving something together that they couldn't accomplish as effectively on their own. It's about putting the right people on the right projects at the right time and giving them the environment they need to succeed. And that is what we are going to discuss in today's episode. So our first segment, what is a team? Let us start with a simple question. What actually is a team? Is it 5 people working in the same department? Is it 10 people who have the same supervisor? Is it everyone who is wearing the same company shirt today? Not necessarily. A group of people isn't automatically a team. A strategic team has a shared purpose, a shared responsibility, and some level of independence within that shared atmosphere. Think about a football team. You can have the most talented quarterback in the world, except if you're talking about Tom Brady, but if the offensive line cannot protect him, then it doesn't really matter how much talent that quarterback has. You can have an incredible wide receiver, but if nobody can get them the ball, their talent is limited. You can have the best defense your team has ever had, but if the offense can't score points, the team will struggle to win games. The point is simple. Sure, individual talent matters, but how that talent works together with other talent matters just as much. That's true in business. You can hire brilliant people and still have terrible producing teams. Why? Because talent alone doesn't create teamwork when teamwork is needed. You want to know what does create teamwork when teamwork is needed? Alignment does. Communication does. Trust does. Clarity does. Good leadership does. And that is where the strategic team building comes into place. Segment 2 is called The Right Person in the Right Project. One of the biggest problems organizations face is putting people into roles based on availability instead of alignment. You often hear things from leadership like, we need somebody, so we hired somebody. That position was open. Who can fill it? So-and-so called off today. Can you do it instead? All of these are understandable in certain situations. Businesses have deadlines, customers need service, the work needs to get done. But there is a difference between filling a position and building a team. Sometimes the person isn't the problem. About 88.5% of the time, it's the position itself. Maybe their strengths don't align with the role. Maybe they were never properly trained. Maybe expectations were not very clear. Maybe they are performing a job that doesn't allow them to use their strengths and the strongest abilities. And sometimes, unfortunately, the person just isn't the right fit, and there's nothing we can really do for that. However, we should never just jump to the conclusion because evidence has shown that more often than not, it is a system problem, not a people problem. That is what strategic team building starts with: assessment. Before we ask things like what is wrong with the employee, we should ask what does this role require, or what does this project need? What strengths are necessary for success? What skills are missing? What does success look like? What is the goal? Where is the vision? What does each person bring to the table, and how does what they bring to the table help achieve the goals? Right? We pick out the strengths, we find the weaknesses, and we put the right people in the right projects. We don't just throw any random person in there because they're there. Stop building teams around titles. Here's another thing I want you to think about. We tend to build organizations around job titles like manager, supervisor, assistant, salesperson, coordinator, director, etc., etc. But people are not job descriptions. They are people just as much as everyone else is. Different communication styles, different experiences, different strengths, different perspectives, different motivations. These differences can either become an organization's greatest strength or its greatest source of conflict. Chat, think about a team where everyone thinks exactly the same way at first. You might think this sounds great. Everyone agrees, nobody argues, meetings are easy. But what happens when there's a problem? Nobody challenges the assumption. Nobody asks, what if we're wrong? Nobody sees the issue from another perspective. That is why diversity of thought becomes incredibly important. Not simply diversity in demographics, but in experience, perspective, problem solving, thinking. A strong team doesn't require everyone to think the same. It requires everyone to work towards the same purpose. It's like I tell my team all the time. I give them a goal. Let me just, I don't know, throw out there, let's do 50 sales calls a week. But I don't, that's all I say. I just need 50 sales calls a week. I don't tell them how to get the 50 sales calls a week, which 50 sales calls to make a week, what state to call the 50 sales calls in. As long as they get the 50 sales calls, it's all good. Everyone's going to have different ways of getting there as long as they get there. And that's what the strategic team building is all about. It's about putting those right people that are going to get you there, not just a body that's going to take up space and hope for the best. Segment 4 is when team conflict isn't really about personality. Let's talk about conflict because let's be honest, every team has conflict at some point or another. If someone tells you their team has zero conflict, they either have the most amazing team full of ultra genetic aliens built in a lab on Krypton with Superman, or nobody is being honest. My vote is that those words are a bit over-exaggerated. Conflict, though, is not automatically bad. Healthy disagreement can actually make a team stronger, right? That sounds kind of crazy, right? Arguing to make it stronger, but that plays back to our last segment of perspectives, different perspectives, being diverse in thought. And as a good leader, you open up to that feedback, you open up to that conversation so you can make changes that are going to make the team and the company successful with meeting their goals and deadlines. The problem is not conflict itself, it's destructive conflict. And sometimes what looks like a personality conflict is actually a structural problem. For example, she's difficult to work with. Okay, maybe she doesn't have clear expectations. He is not a team player. Okay, maybe responsibilities overlap and nobody knows who owns which work. Lack of communication, one of our 4 core foundations of the framework, right? They never communicate. Maybe the communication isn't reliable as a process. They don't respect management. Well, maybe management hasn't clearly established expectations in a way that everyone understands them. Again, I'm a big advocate on open book learning, and what that means is you can't really have a rule or guideline or expectation when it comes to training or teaching people, because everybody learns in different ways. So that's why I call it the open book learning system. It's just you talk to the person coming in and you find out how they like to be communicated to, and you communicate that way because you want them to understand at the end of the day. And if you're talking gibberish or in a way that they don't understand, it's going to cause unnecessary conflict, structural conflict. So before we label someone as difficult, we should always investigate the environment they are operating in. The one thing we do at Integral Lead Solutions is we come into the office, your office, we assess the people, we assess the leaders, we assess the flow, we assess the communication, the innovation, the creativity, the curiosity. We see if there's any compassion. We see all levels from the ground all the way to the top. And yes, we start from the ground and work our way up, not up down. And then we build solutions that help bring everyone together as one big, well-running machine. In this particular service, the strategic team building aspect, we use the 3 R's of project completion: the right person, the right project, the right time. This means that your best accountant, who quarter after quarter always succeeds with their productivity numbers and is always involved in financial projects. But what would happen if you put that person in charge of a manufacturing machine tool project? That position would more than likely lead to failure, because his strength isn't manufacturing tools or production. His strength is accounting and finances and making you money and helping you build money and reallocate the money so that you can build and continue to succeed. So it wouldn't make sense putting him on a manufacturing tool project. It's going to be a waste of time. It's going to be a waste of money. It's going to be a loss of revenue. And then it's going to just time is money, and it's going to take away from people that actually know that and are knowledgeable of that and are experts in that, because then they got to train somebody when you can just put the right person in that position to begin with. Doing these strategic thinking, instead of who is causing the problem, ask what is causing the problem. And that comes back to one of our 4 C's, right? Curiosity. It's not about asking questions, it's about asking the right questions, right? So we don't want to say who, we want to say what. Because it's always a what. A who can't mess up unless a what messes up first. That's one of my big things is, the person continues to screw up, but why? Why is that person continuing to not hit their numbers? Why is that person continuing to not be productive? There's got to be a reason why. It's our job as good leaders to figure out why, and then we fix it in a compassionate, communicating way. The one slight change in perspective can completely change how conflicts looks. Asking the what instead of the who can make it a positive, learning conflict instead of a damaging, destructive conflict. More often than not, handling conflict in this manner leads to more success over failure. Now we're going to tie in our 4 C's of sustainable leadership framework into this service that we have, strategic team building. So, and that brings us now to the 4 C's connection, because strategic team building without the 4 C's is incomplete. Let's break down why. Let's start with our first C, communication. Teams cannot function without communication. No matter how hard you try to fight this statement and argue with me that you can, trust me, you can't. Communication isn't just simply talking to one another, it's understanding one another. It's setting expectations, giving feedback, asking questions, knowing when to speak and when to listen. A team that communicates well can identify problems well before they become problems. Creativity helps teams solve problems. Sometimes the best solution isn't the traditional one on paper. And I say that more often than not. A creative team asks, is there another way? What if we approach this differently? What are we not seeing? You don't build innovative teams by punishing their mistakes. You build teams by embracing those mistakes and using them to create environments where people can bring those mistakes and turn them into innovation and create, who knows, and maybe even create something wonderful. Curiosity, our 3rd C, is curious teams don't assume, never. They investigate. They ask questions. They challenge assumptions. They learn. It's kind of like a scientist when they're coming up with a science project, right? They always have a hypothesis, which is an educated guess. That is, then they do the project to investigate their hypotheses and what they assume is going to happen. Sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're wrong. That's the same with curiosity. We never want to just assume. We want to investigate. We want to hypothesize what we think is going to happen, but then we want to test it to make sure before we come up with any type of conclusion. Um, a curious team never says, that's how we have always done things around here. Instead, they say, why don't we do things a certain way? Maybe the answer is because it works. Great, keep doing it if it works. But most of the time, the answer is, I don't know, we just do. Now there is an opportunity. Opportunity to innovate and create those environments we have been talking about this entire time today. Like, there's real no answer. It's just because that's what's written on the paper. Well, it's a piece of paper. It can be rewritten. It can be erased. It can be deleted, backspace, whatever you want to say. And it can be reworded. It can be changed. You can look at your team that you have now, and that might not be the same team, and they might not be motivated by the same things that the team you had 5 years ago was motivated by. So it's okay to change and adjust to your team so that there's the most success. A good leader should always want to see his team succeed or her team succeed. It's never about how much money can I make the company. How much money am I going to make? Am I going to earn extra vacation time if I follow the rules and do what's on the paper? Or am I going to be a successful, sustainable leader for this company and this organization and my team for a long time to come because I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to do? And that brings us to our last C, which is compassion. Compassion is incredibly important in team building because your employees are not robots. They have different experiences, different challenges, different circumstances. That brings us back to a word we used earlier in the day, right? Different perspectives, diversity. Diversity isn't just a race thing or a culture thing. It's everything. Diversity can be used for anything. I learn differently than that person. That's diverse learning. I think differently than that person. That's diverse thinking. It's diversity is a huge thing, and it goes hand in hand with compassion way more than people think. And then compassion does not mean eliminating accountability, which is a huge problem. It means understanding the person while still holding them accountable. You can be a good leader. You can listen. You can understand. You can be compassionate. But at the same time, if you do that and you are a good 4Cs leader, they're gonna respect you. They're gonna understand you, and they're gonna understand when you tell them that there has to be a disciplinary action done, and they're gonna accept it, and they're gonna learn from it, and they're gonna move on from it. There's not gonna be no hard feelings. There are ways to do this without losing respect and causing unnecessary chaos and drama in the workplace. The difference is how you approach the situation. For example, chat, I'm gonna give you two examples, leader A and leader B. I want you to tell me which leader you would respect more. Leader A, why can't you just do your job like you're told? If you can't stick to the script, why are you here? Or Leader B, I understand you are struggling to hit your numbers. Help me understand what is preventing you from being successful. What can I do to help, and how can we push forward? What do you think happens in both these situations, chat? Leader A is responsible for employee shutdowns. They lose the lack of respect, loss of morale, and high employee turnover rates. Leader B is responsible for creating a psychologically safe zone where employees feel comfortable seeking advice and help. With Leader B, there is no fear of discipline when approaching them with a concern. I don't know how many times I've seen in companies that I've worked with where I've gotten told by employees where they are afraid to come forward with a new way or a new technique that can actually improve the numbers and enhance productivity, but they don't do it because they've been written up in the past or they've gotten in trouble in the past. Hell, it happened to me in my last job, but before I decided to open up my business. I came up with an awesome idea. We were knocking out double of what was expected from us, and they wrote me up. Almost lost my job because of it. Kind of got me motivated to create this framework and do something to change that, because that is not the way it should be. Segment 6, strategic team building in the real world. So, what does strategic team building actually look like? It can start with understanding the organization. What are organizational goals? What teams exist? What roles exist? What are the gaps preventing success? What are the overlaps? Where is the communication breakdown rooting from? Which employees are the strongest? And at what jobs are they the strongest? Why are the employees struggling? Once we answer these assessment questions, we can begin to look at alignment. Are people in roles that match their capabilities? Are managers equipped to lead their teams? Are expectations clear? Are teams communicating effectively? Are responsibilities clearly defined? Are there opportunities for cross training? Although I will never, ever, 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 ever push the cross training on anybody, because that brings us back to earlier when we talked about putting a financial person in on a manufacturing tool project. It's not going to be successful. Um, I would never push that agenda for cross training, because again, cross training takes time, and time costs money, and you're already in the negative before the project even starts. So I would never push for cross training, but technically cross training is an objective of being a good leader, because you want to make sure you have all your loose ends tied together, all your I's dotted, T's crossed, that saying. But I personally, and I would never like open that up as a solid decision. It's more of like a last minute. I have my team already here, and I'm going to cross train people in the background, so it's not taking up time away from the project. So there's ways to do it where it's still effective. Okay, and then, are there any future leaders who need development? This should always be a yes. If you are a leader and you answer no to this question, resign from being a leader right now, because that is always, the answer to that question is always yes. You should want to develop your team into leaders. If you have 5 people that leave you in a year because they are taking better jobs, that should make you proud. Yes, it kind of sucks for the company in the short term, because what are you going to do? You got to hire 5 new people. But as a leader, be selfish about it. Take pride in doing that. Like, that is an awesome job. That is what you should strive to do. On top of making the company revenue, you should strive on the people that are working under you. You should want to make them better. And so that should always be a yes answer. Our goal is to make employees promotable from within, so the need to recruit only happens with positive situations such as expansion. This service is never about coming into an organization and saying you're doing everything wrong. To be honest, most consulting firms will never fully be able to tell you if you are doing it correctly or not, because we don't do it. We just come in from the outside, we observe, we watch, and we take notes, and we give suggestions on different things, but we don't do the work. So most consulting firms that tell you that they know that they're experts aren't really experts. And I'm not sitting here today telling you that I'm an expert in building your teams, but I am an expert in people and putting the right people in the right places. So I'm going to make sure the people you have are where they're going to be the best for themselves and for the company. But I'm not ever going to come in here and say you're doing it wrong, or the project's not going to get done because of this and that. That's not what I do. That's not what we do. At Integrity Solutions, we are not here to say what is right and what is wrong with the actual workflow and processes. We are there to build the people on the team stronger and more successful, both for themselves and for the organization. It's about identifying opportunities. Sometimes the best solution is not hiring another person. Sometimes it is restructuring responsibilities, training, providing open feedback on how to improve communication. Sometimes it is about discovering an employee's strengths and moving them where those strengths can be utilized not only for the organization, but for them and their promotability and their future success, but also to help the employee grow into a promotable leader one day. Now, yes, there will be times where hiring somebody is the only solution that makes sense. And in that case, make sure the hiring is part of the strategy and not the strategy itself. Team building versus team bonding. Remember at the very beginning of this, we talked about there's a difference between building and bonding. We're going to get into that a little bit, just briefly. Let's come back to the distinction between bonding and building. Team bonding asks us, how can we have fun together, right? What can we do as a team to get our minds right? Like, we're going to bond outside of work. We're going to bond at work. We're going to do something together. Whereas team building asks us, how can we become stronger and better together? Take the fun out of it. How can we become better together, right? You can absolutely do both. Have that company picnic. Heck, I'll even help you plan it. Go bowling. I'll toss a few strikes with you. Have lunch. I can always eat. I mean, who doesn't want to eat? Do that escape room. Actually, maybe not. I might get lost. But have fun. I'll be on the outside waiting for you. Build relationships. Integrity Solutions would love to be a part of the family. Talk about trust, communication, accountability, strengths, conflict, goals. This is when the real value begins. The goal is not to make employees like one another. The goal is to make sure they have everything they need to effectively collaborate together to achieve goals together. And if you have that in place, they are going to feel like best friends inside the workplace because there's nothing bringing them down, there's nothing holding them back. There's nothing to fight about. There's nothing to argue about. They're there. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're succeeding together. Things are getting done. And that is exactly what we want. Segment 8 is just the Integral Lead Solutions Spotlight. This is where I want to talk about how Integral Lead Solutions approaches strategic team building. We don't believe there is a universal formula for every organization. Your team is not my team. My team is not your team. Your challenges aren't someone else's challenges. Industries are different. Problems are different. Teams are different. Cultures are not the same. Even if every company that I haven't worked with yet was 4C certified, our approach starts with understanding each of our client specific gaps and goals. We look at the organization. We look at the teams. We look at the roles. We locate the strengths. We find the opportunities. Then we help the leaders build a strategy around what the organization actually needs. This could include role alignment, reassigning project duties, improving team communications, conflict resolution strategies, ongoing support. The goal isn't simply to make your team feel better for the day or for the project. The goal is to help your organization build a better team that can perform better not only now, but tomorrow, next month, next year, and beyond. That is what we do with sustainability, right? Sustainability is more than just environmental. It's long term, right? That's what sustainability is. How long is it going to be sustainable for? And that's what we're trying to do. All the economists and environmentalists are out there trying to make the world a sustainable place. We're just trying to make organizations sustainable. We're having good leadership, good sustainable people in place. It's about winning the long-term battles, not the short-term victories. If you are listening live today, or if you're listening to the recording later and you are thinking, we have some of these challenges in our organization, I want you all to do something. Don't immediately start trying to fix everything. Hire me. I'm kidding. Start with a conversation. Talk to one person on your team and ask them, what is one thing that would make it easier for you to do your job well? And then listen to their response. Don't explain to them why you're asking. Don't defend if they are saying it's different than what you are thinking. Just listen. Why? Because sometimes, more often so than not, the employees know exactly what needs to change. They just have never been asked. And if you are a business leader who wants help evaluating your team structure, communication loops, overall team effectiveness, that is exactly the type of conversation we have at Integral Lead Solutions. The consultation that we offer is 100% free with no obligation. Operational effectiveness assessment. Hang on, I got something for you guys here. I think it's this one. Nope, this one. Right here. There we go. That is a quick little flyer on the screen there about what our strategic team building is all about. Our operational effectiveness assessments are free to perform. And they cost $99 to have an overview discussion and brainstorm plan. But we are currently running a promotion until the end of August where we waive that $99 fee and we do it for absolutely free. You can always visit us on our website to learn more about our strategic team building services in more detail over that flyer, and every other service that we offer at our website, www.integraleadsolutions.com. I completely rebuilt the website. It's looking really good. There's some blogs in there with more information that kind of play off of what we're talking about here. There's booking sites, there's phone numbers, email addresses, how to find us on social media. But I mean, you're here on TikTok. You follow us on TikTok. This is where we do all of our live recordings and broadcasts. It's not going to be done anywhere else live. We will post it in YouTube and maybe share occasionally on Facebook. But TikTok is where it's at. So you can always visit our website to learn more. And then if you are enjoying the Leading with a Purpose podcast, follow us, share us, and send me your biggest takeaway from this week's episodes, either in the chat privately or via email. If you are a leader and want to be a guest in in the future for one of our shows, we're going to start dabbing into interviewing leaders, non-leaders, and really nipping them down to see how much in the 4 C's they really are, and offer open suggestions and ideas for them and from them as well. So reach out to me if you would, if you're a leader and you want to be a guest in the future. Um, if you are not a leader in your current job, that's cool too. Reach out to me anyway. We can bring you on and have a discussion on what you expect from your leaders, bad experiences, good experiences that you might have had in the past. Pick your brain for industry specific ideas you have to help your organization grow. And maybe it'll get back to your leader somehow, and that might happen. I got a challenge on the stream today. This is something new. I kind of did it a little bit last episode. Had a few emails in response to it, so I wanted to kind of go a little bit more with it. Before we close this episode, it is time for our Leading with a Purpose challenge. This week's challenge is called The Right Seat. Think about your team. It doesn't have to be you as a leader and you have a team of employees. You could be an employee on a team. You could be in a department and that department is considered your team. You could be a teacher and your team is the rest of the teachers. You could be a firefighter, police officer, and your little people you work with is your team. If you're not working and you're listening, your team can be, if you're like in a walking group or a neighborhood group, or you have a couple boys that you go get a beer with on Friday night, that can be your team. Like, just, it's a team. It doesn't have to be a business related team, but okay, for this. So think about your team. Pick one person, not necessarily your highest performer or best friend, not necessarily your lowest performer, not such a best friend, just one person, and ask yourself 3 questions about that person. What is this person's greatest strength? Does their current role allow them to use that strength? What could I change, even if something small, to help them use that strength more effectively? You don't have to reorganize your entire organization. You don't even have to change job titles. You don't even necessarily have to move that person. Maybe you just simply need to give them an opportunity to lead a project. Maybe offer to provide them specific training. Ask for their input on a current project they are working on. Whatever it is you discover, do something with it. Because leadership isn't about recognizing potential. It's about creating opportunities for that potential to become high performance. That is your challenge this week. Find the right seat. And then, help somebody sit in it. Please, if you are participating in challenges, let me know how they go. Did it work? Did it fail? Let us know with a simple email, comment in the chat, and if there's any type of challenges that you think would be fun for a future episode, I'm open. I'm 100% open. Trust me, writing these scripts every week is excruciating. I do it for everybody who follows me and needs the leadership advice because I love to do what I do. And I'm going to continue to do so. But like anything else, I need help sometimes, and I would be more than happy to take that help. I'm going to share on the screen here something. It is our Integrity Solutions referral payment structure. Real quick, just to go over the referral payment structure here. The referral structure works the exact same way as our commission sales. I have a sales team. They work on commission right now, and they get paid for every close they do. Well, this is paying you for every opportunity to close. So depending on which tier level the people end up signing a contract with, once they sign a contract and it was somebody that you sent to us, you're going to get paid a percentage based on the tier. And I don't know, I'm not going to give the exact numbers here in the chat, but let's just say a tier 3 project is $10,000, right? 10% of that is $1,000. And that's just because you gave us a name and our sales team was awesome and they closed it. So then you get free money. It's simple. There's no cap on the referrals. You can send us as many as you would like. I just ask that if you do so, send me an email at christopher.puc@integritysolutions.com. Send me a chat here and say you want to connect. Call the number on the bottom, and then I will send you over a referral form. You fill out that referral form. That way, when my sales team makes the call to close, they can see that it was from a referral source and it gets documented correctly so that you can get your money. That is just something cool that we're doing. That's not a temporary thing. That is a permanent thing that we're always going to be doing. And I think it's kind of cool. The number to call is right here, 734-954-9497. That's not only to book, but you can send us a text. You can call us just to chat. If you have any questions about anything we go over in the show, in the pods, that would be perfect for that too. I know we covered a lot of material today. We talked about why a group of employees isn't actually a team. isn't automatically a team. We talked about putting the right people in the right situations. We talked about conflict. We talked about diversity of thought. We compared bonding and building. And most importantly, we discovered a way to connect strategic team building to the 4 C's of sustainable leadership. Sustainable teams don't happen by accident, people. They are built on strategy, and when you build the right team, you don't just improve today's performance, you create a foundation for tomorrow's organization. Next week, we are going to move into our fourth service, which is financial management. We're going to talk about something that every organization cares about: money. But as always with our company, we're not going to look at financial management as numbers on a spreadsheet. We are going to talk about how financial decisions affect people, sustainability, risks, and organizational growth. Remember, I am not a financial expert. I do not have a degree in accounting. I do not have anything like that. But I do have a degree in leadership. I do have a degree in management, and I do have a degree in people. And I'm going to hopefully introduce you to a new way to look at finances with focusing on people and using my 4 C's framework to make financial decisions that better the organization and the people involved in it. Um, so until then, remember, the strongest teams are not built by finding the best people. They are built by helping the people you have become the best. This is Leading with a Purpose, presented by Integrity Solutions. I am the founder and CEO, Christopher Pusey. It has been my pleasure giving you a sneak peek into our business, our views, and our vision for the future. Hope to see you